All right, folks, let's see what guests we have scheduled for today, if any. And of course, we've got some news coming at you from around the world and things that are going on in that sense. So, hopefully, everybody's having a good Monday afternoon. I know that I just finished doing earlier the news story as well as attended Media Monday, which we also do on Mondays as well. Great conversation. Glad to have David Grasso, of course, Bill Danko, and others involved in that conversation. Both the founders of this network, Nick Palveda and Kim Calhoun, were also there as well. So always great to have great conversations in that sense. And definitely looking forward to having some other great conversations as well. So definitely hoping that some of our guests will be coming in and sharing some of their thoughts as things that they've got going on in their life and things along those lines. So we're going to see if anybody is ready to come on in here. I know that we've had some health experts coming in the past, and I believe that's who I had scheduled for today. But we're going to see if they are able to make it in or not. And of course, we're always glad to have other amazing conversations happening as well. So, like I said, always good to be here with y'all, good folks, on the afternoon. Glad that I got some good news from one of my jobs that they will be starting some work starting at the end of this month. So that's a good thing that I have been anxiously waiting to hear from in that sense. So definitely interested to hear what other things are going on in your lives and what things you might be involved in and all of that. So if you got any thoughts, if you'd like to attend our show, if you'd like to even be a guest on the show, don't hesitate to get in touch with me at bluesradio@gmail.com. That's bluesradio@gmail.com. Of course, we'd love to have you in some of our conversations as well. So if you're interested, don't hesitate to reach me there. And of course, we'll look forward to hearing from you and what you've got going on in your world. By the way, there are some people that are saying that the future of food is missing the point. That's right. They're saying that the future of food is missing the point. Food entrepreneurs are hard at work creating a world in which drones drop off orders within 5 minutes and ghost kitchens pump out meals unscathed for untethered from physical restaurants. But is this really the future we want? So there was a publication called Eater, and journalist Jaya Saxana examined how, in the rush to disrupt delivery and restaurants, innovations are missing the true lodestar, an industry that pays a living wage, and consumers who understand and pay the true cost for the convenience of delivery and meals out. And so it does look like some folks are trying to figure out as to what the consequence of these things is going to be. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that as well. As a matter of fact, Algan Spikes was a senior pastor and definitely a math teacher as well, says that I believe the technology we add to every phase of life, we will soon to exist as humanity and turn into a world ran and governed by robots and technology. Let's hope not, Mr. Algan, because I'm hoping that that is not the case. But he was also saying the ideas of drones bringing my food is outlandish. What happens to the intimacy of eating out and joining with family and friends? Also, what happens to industries that employ so many workers? Eventually, the government will have to pick up the tab for people that lose jobs and have no form of a secondary education. What makes us humans is our ability to fellowship, communicate, love, show compassion, and all the rest. So that is one of the things that this particular person was bringing up in that sense. And Jim Farrell, who is a real estate broker, said, "Wow, I couldn't have said it any better than Kevin did. We consumers have gotten so spoiled by choice for years. Add the rush to last mile delivery recently, supposedly an improvement in our lives, and the result will be more and more disconnected humans. I'll continue to choose not having food delivered either by a third party delivering for a restaurant and charging egregious fees, or one of the goofily named new unicorn tech platforms such as GoPuff or Jokers bringing produce to my door. Instead, I'll support a local business owner who will likely charge more because she needs to in order to deliver the quality experience I like, and go to a bricks and mortar grocery store. Oh, and interact with my fellow humans. You know, we've been doing this since we stood upright and walked. Good point, even though I'm sitting here waiting for an order from DoorDash. So I really shouldn't be talking in that sense and everything. But I do like to get out and talk to my fellow humans and see what they're up to and see what kind of things are happening in their life and all of that. So definitely that is something that is going on. And we have a greeting from North Carolina. So Belinda McFadden was saying greetings from North Carolina. So I appreciate Belinda for chiming in and saying that they were in North Carolina. I'm not sure which part. I'm in the Bull City right here in Durham, North Carolina. So hopefully they are in this area as well. And of course, we've got folks that chime in from all over and all of that. But we are an international platform and glad to see that Belinda is tuning in from Durham, North Carolina. And we've got some other folks that may be coming in as well. As a matter of fact, if Belinda or others want to join the show, I'm always glad to put in the link where they can find us and hopefully pop in and share some of their wisdom and some of the things that they've got going on as well. As a matter of fact, Belinda was chiming in from Dunn, North Carolina. So glad that they were over there in the Dunn area and all of that. Always glad to have amazing guests and folks sharing time with us on the network and on the platform. If you're here and you want to chime in, jump into conversation, and you got things you want to share, don't hesitate to go to the LinkedIn, or as we call it in some of these live streams, the fun room. And that is the way that you can find the fun room right here, right there. If you want to click on, and if you want to join into the conversation, don't hesitate to jump in and let us know some of the things that are on your mind as well. So we just mentioned the food thing and what's going on in that sense. Let's find out what's happening with Netflix. That's right, Netflix wins big at the Deserted Globes. Netflix nabbed the Best Dramatic Film Award for Power of the Dog, as well as three other wins in the movie category and one for television at the Golden Globes event, I should say, on Sunday, boycotted by Hollywood. Media partner NBC, stars, publishers, and studios stayed away from the awards following revelations that the Foreign Press Association hosted it included no African American people. The association has since announced 21 new members it described as the most diverse lineup ever. And Rosella Kennedy, who has definitely done a lot of work in the writing space, said, "I'm glad the Globes are going down. European foreign press entertainment industry is so rife with racism, they don't even know where to begin improvement. I will never forget the poster for 12 Years a Slave in Italy, where it was a giant Brad Pitt face and Chiwetel was a little postage stamp in the corner. I lived in Europe in my 20s, and the blindness or willful neglect of diversity, the term that ranks me in any case, is as real as the blue sky above. And I'm not just calling it phase because my beloved friends helms the Emmy Foundation." So they are definitely saying that there's some things going on in that sense as well. And Carol Lieberman, who is the owner of Dr. Carol, says, "How ironic. Golden Globes were unfairly ignored this year because of alleged lack of diversity. Yet Squid Game's Soo was the first Korean actor in Golden Globes history to win an award. He won a well-deserved Best Supporting Actor TV. Congratulations." And Kathy Renna said, "Finally, those get some of the recognition it deserves, and MJ makes history. Rodriguez has become the first transgender actor to win a Golden Globe in the ceremony's nearly 80-year history. On Sunday, January 9th, she took home the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a drama series for her critically acclaimed performance as house mother and nurse Bianca in the FX drama Pose." So it looks like they are definitely getting some much needed recognition in that sense. Matter of fact, Alvin Lloyd Bradbury, a migrations and development policy analyst, says the entire Hollywood is boycotting the Golden Globes. NBC removed it from broadcast, and actor Tom Cruise gave back all of his Golden Globe awards in protest against the award body's racial discrimination and corruption. The body has been accused of lack of diversity and being anti-black and unethical. So no Golden Globe ceremony is being held this year. They will announce winners on social media, place winners in quotes, because if the Globe is corrupt, who can truly trust their decisions? Hence why Tom Cruise felt compelled to give them back their award. No one wants anything from this. They just need to reform and change their dirty ways. People are around the corner and trying to figure out what's going on in that sense. But it says people of color have long suspected discrimination. It's the same with the Grammys. So even the Grammys are getting some pushback as well. By the way, we also are hearing that there is a fourth booster shot that might be coming our way also. So there is a fourth booster shot that may be coming our way. And I know a lot of folks are not excited about that in the least bit. But under the latest guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the deployment of a fourth COVID-19 vaccine can begin this week for some people with severely compromised immune systems. Last week, the agency revised its recommendation to urge immunocompromised people to receive a booster shot 5 months after their last jab. Also, although some had already received fourth or even fifth shots before authorization. Chicago Public Schools canceled classes for a fourth day on Monday, and a labor stalemate went over in-person learning and pandemic safety. And the Pfizer CEO, Albert Bourla, said the company plans to have an Omicron variant vaccine ready by March. And kid-sized masks are in short supply as students return to classrooms, according to Bloomberg. So that is some of the news that is coming in that regards. Don't forget, Delon Canterbury will be coming our way on Wednesday. One of our guests, I know we got two or three that are coming on Wednesday as part of that online dinner party and all of that. So do keep that in mind that Delon Canterbury will be making a return trip. Are we looking at a February RTO? Major U.S. companies, including Apple, Ford, and Google, have delayed return to office plans. But infectious disease expert Dr. Monica Gandhi says employers should be able to safely reopen offices by mid January. In an interview from Charter Works, Gandhi predicts a stage of low cases by early February, and then and that Omicron will take us into the endemic stage, making it very, making it kind of wondering how things are going in that sense and everything. Oh, that's what it was, making it very possible that offices could reopen next month. I don't know how you feeling about going back to an office next month. However, White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci is among those who believe it's too soon to look beyond the pandemic phase. Matter of fact, Jamie Campos, a auditor at the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts, says Dr. Gandhi makes a good medical case for the prospects of returning to the office. However, many people want to work remotely for the rest of their professional careers. Some individuals feel that working from home offers more lifestyle flexibility than traditional work in the office. And also, until we get to the point of zero COVID, many individuals are skeptical that it will ever be medically safe to spend hours within hours um, visiting their family. So, mm. Now, one thing that that Campos was saying was that some individuals feel working from home offers more lifestyle flexibility than traditional work in the office. Also, until we get to the point of zero COVID, many individuals are skeptical that it will ever be medically safe to spend hours with multiple individuals. They said, I am personally more productive in the traditional office setting. I would like to see everyone return to the office. However, just because you want life to return to some measure in 2019 doesn't mean it's going to happen. Society in general is going to have to adjust. Some office buildings are going to remain empty forever. That is an interesting point, and it's something you really can't argue with. So, wondering y'all's thoughts on any of these stories that I am bringing up. And like I said, if you want to join into the conversation, don't hesitate to jump in. Don't hesitate to pop in there and share some of your wisdom, your thoughts, and of course, we'd love to have you come in and engage in the conversation as well. By the way, a college has been sued over an AIDS award. That's right. In a new challenge to college admissions policy, students have sued 16 universities, including Yale, Georgetown, and Northwestern, for alleged antitrust violations in how they award financial aid. The federal suit alleges that the school, to limit costs, give priority to children of wealthy donors and considers the finances of students on a waiting list and in certain programs to be by law. Hmm. So, what do y'all think about blind admissions? Do y'all think that that's a good way to go, or what's your thoughts on that? Kate Lewis, an independent education consultant, said, "I'm disappointed to see several institutions who have been publicly dedicated, Caltech, Emory, to need blind admissions included in this suit. Need blind admissions isn't the silver bullet to the college access problem, but it definitely is a step in the right direction. According to a lawsuit, the universities engaged in price fixing and unfairly limited aids by using a sharp methodology to calculate applicants' financial need. Schools are allowed under federal law to collaborate on their formulas, but only if they don't consider applicants' financial needs and in their admissions decision. The suit alleges these schools do weigh candidates' ability to pay in certain circumstances, and therefore the solution can't be better than the problem. That's just a known fact. So hopefully that is the case here as well. So hopefully things are going to work out, and we're going to see how this works. As a matter of fact, Mark Hagan, and he did spell his name right, a mind shift coach, said higher ed, the most exclusive schools, another industrial complex comprising values and principles, compromising the greater good. Much better must be done if we are to regain trust in the system for all, or the fabric of society will continue to be torn apart. We're going to get you some more news, and we might have an upcoming interview or an interview that was done sometime back that we're going to reshare and all of that. But in the meantime, I want you to check out some other things that are going on in this area. And of course, we've got the amazing Barbara Smith that does her shows, and we've also got some great things going on in the sense of Billy Graham and some of the other people as well. So we definitely always to make sure that we're letting you check out some very important ads and some important resources to what we've got going on here. One of them is my friend Lotus Richey.
It's time for you to start bossing in social media. For all your social media needs, you've come to the right place at the right time to get your website designed, landing page, social media platforms, and get the training you need to get in front of the people that's ready to buy your products and services. Let me train you with StreamYard, Zoom, Clubhouse, and much more. And let me help you get your virtual professionals, not assistants, because assistants can only assist you, but the virtual professional can give you that professional flavor that you need to expand your reach and increase your revenue. Jump on in and get in where you fit in and start bossing today.
Are you worried that you might have an STD? If you need to know, call Labs to Go. Walk-ins are welcomed and no appointment is needed. With our mobile services, you can be tested at home, place of business, or walk into one of our Virginia Beach locations. You can request your results through email or pickup. Prescription available for some positive results. Doctor's order or insurance are not required. Virginia STD rates are at an all-time high. Know your status. Call today. And as always, when you need to know, call Labs to Go.
Hi there, my name is Dr. Shayla Creer and I am the owner of Fist Mobile Physical Therapy.
Fully rehabilitate at home with Fist. PT's Total Knee Knockout Program. Bring the clinic right into your home as Dr. Creer takes you through 12 effective physical therapy sessions that completely rehabilitate the knee safely, efficiently, and effectively. The program is structured with custom exercises to target the muscles necessary to promote healing and get you moving. Get the entire program for one low price.
And anyway, as a result of the accident, I had to have 3 surgeries and 15 months of physical therapy 3 days a week in order to be able to walk again, to sit up by myself, and to be able to breathe again on my own. As you can imagine, it was not easy, but due to God first and foremost, and my wonderful healthcare team, I persevered and I pushed through. And I am not proud to say that it's been 13 years now and I have no pain whatsoever. And I thank God that I'm able to share and pass that blessing on to you. So as you go through this rehab protocol, just know that it may not be easy, it may not be fun, but it will definitely be worth it. And I'm with you every step of the way. And I want you to know that if I can do it, you can do it. So let's go ahead and get started, guys.
Let's see what else we've got going on in the world and all of that. And of course, there's always amazing things happening. Hope everybody's, like I said, having a good day. It is a little bit on the chilly side, but it's not overly bad out there. And of course, we want to hear what folks have got to say about a number of stories that are going on in the world. One of them is that the Farmville makers are going to sell for $11 billion. That's right, I did say billion. So, Grand Theft automaker Take Two Interactive has agreed to buy Zynga for $11 billion in cash and stock, according to the Wall Street Journal. A social game developer, Zynga is best known for definitely titles including Farmville and one of my favorites, Words with Friends. The deal, which is pending regulatory approval, but will be one of the biggest in video game acquisition history. Zynga's stock price jumped sharply, while Take Two fell definitely following that news. So it does look like Zynga took a little bump up and the purchasers took a little bump down. But we'll see how this all plays out in that sense and everything along those lines. And one of the things they're saying that it shows is that Take Two is hungry for success in the fast growing mobile games market, which now takes up roughly half of the entire video gaming industry. Could it be a match made in heaven? Michael Pachter of Wedbush Securities thinks so. Take Two should see an acceleration of its mobile business, including taking existing brands and turning them into mobile franchises. Pachter tells folks that he is expecting Take Two to take a hands-off approach to managing the combined companies. So be interested to see how this all plays out and what folks' thoughts are about that new business in the news and everything. And by the way, workers are giving bully bosses the boot. That's right, as millions rethink their professional lives during the great reshuffle, many newly empowered workers, I should say, are saying no more to bully bosses, according to the New York Times. That's right, they're not putting up with those bosses that don't want to give them respect. So according to one executive coach, tolerance for dealing with jerky bosses has decreased during the pandemic, leading more companies to take closer look at workplace culture and conduct as people leave. The reshuffle is also helping in the heels of the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter protests, which deepen discussions of appropriate conduct at work. Audrey Rufa, a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant, said, "Don't miss the signs. If the exit interview says the managers are jerks, fix the culture ASAP. 3 fast moves to reset this problem. Acknowledge the problem. Talk with transparency about the action you're taking to fix it. 2, get outside help. You then get caught on your watch, and objective outsiders can assess and advise on what's needed. And 3, get managers the skills to meet the moment, communication, emotional intelligence, building trust, and psychological safety. Hold them to it and definitely monitor their progress with pulse surveys." So that's some great advice that they were given in that sense. And Michael Doble, a principal at Doble Communications Consultant, says one dynamic is the new normal generated by the never-ending pandemic, is that people are not tolerating bully bosses. It's what this person calls big baby bully syndrome, or BBBS, for you acronym fans. When bosses lose the job, you are here arrow on the map of life. Bad things happen every single time. And they were urging folks to go over there and check out his blog and all of that. And I was just recently reading about a particular job in the NFL. I think it was the one in Jacksonville, and they were saying that that was going to be a toxic environment. So I was wondering, folks' thoughts. I'd actually put this down into a poll on LinkedIn as to going to work in a toxic environment, and if that is something that you ever feel that you have to do, and how you cope with it if it is something that is something that you feel you cannot escape, and all of that. So love to hear your thoughts about that and what your thoughts in that realm are, because it definitely is always fascinating to have these conversations and for you to share your thoughts as well. So that's just something I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts, and definitely put them into the comments. Let me know, and let me know what your thoughts are in that regards. By the way, how can you actually set boundaries at work? Without commutes and separate physical spaces to break up the day, remote work has further blurred the lines between professional and personal. It's increasingly easy to find yourself answering work mails late at night from the couch, yet it shouldn't be like this, says Hamilton Sean, head of executive education at Loyola Law School. Not only can establishing boundaries improve mental health and best chronic burnout, it provides the space and structure for increased focus when we're actually on the clock. So that's something that was brought up as well, and it'll be interesting to see folks' thoughts about that also. So if you got any thoughts about this whole new corporate world and how it's working, please get in touch with us and let us know. By the way, Jasmine Glashan, who is a writer and a CEO at the company named for her and associates, says, I've dealt with every imaginable kind of client request in the decade I've worked as a thought leader. I encounter new clients on a weekly basis. These clients run the gamut from Fortune 500 companies to tiny startups running on a dream. Their requests are also run the gamut from reasonable and feasible to completely out of the ballpark. To become successful, I've had to learn when to say no. I've also learned a thing or two about boundaries, which I'll share with you right now, is what they said. I've learned that I love to donate my time to speak to the next generation at colleges and nonprofits of my choice. However, my time is my greatest resource. Could not agree with that more. I don't let people pick my brain without asking for a consultant fee today. My freedom starts with the stipulation I add to the contract I sign. It ends with my ability to enforce these stipulations. To take time away from my phone daily to protect my creative energy. My brain is my business, so I have to keep her working in tip top form. Clients that make it difficult for me to be compensated for my work do not have the same access to me as others. Contractors deserve dependable payments too. And they also said, I learned these things and the way that they're presented, I learned while I was in that workforce. And by the way, I learned the things the hard way, but you don't have to. And they were suggesting that you get in touch with them through LinkedIn and learn there's ways around some of these things as well. And how Linfar, the fourth, an executive partner, was saying that burnout is real, chronic pain is also real, and your mental health is critical. This is an interesting article. I never thought that part of the reason people are changing jobs right now is for the break in between roles. Wow, Americans' dysfunctional relationship with time off, changing jobs is often seen as the only way to get a break lasting more than a couple of weeks. Offering a sabbatical is a way of saying you don't need to leave to get this time. Interesting idea. Wondering what other folks are thinking about that as well. We're going to take another commercial break, then bring up an interview that we did not that long ago. Like I was saying, that is the interview that was done earlier. So I think I'll just bring that up there.
It makes a difference. So yeah, we have a lot of progressive things happening here, and I'm just very glad to be alive at this time and supporting in any way I can.
No, it sounds like some definitely great changes are happening and everything. You had mentioned the different societies and everything, and I know that historically, when people would think about India and particularly Calcutta, they would think about the caste system, and also I didn't even realize, even in my own knowledge, that there were that many. Well, I knew that there were different nationalities and that there were indigenous populations in addition to like any other uh, continent and everything. People that were coming from different parts of the well, country, in fact, because India is more of a country, it's on the Asian continent, but different styles of races and things of that nature. But I don't think that we think about that the way that we think about it in America. So, is there been a lot of tension between the different ethnic groups as well, or is that something that hasn't happened there in India the way that it's been happening here in the United States with like Black Lives Matter, which I mentioned earlier, with like the rise of things going on with the Dreamers and some of the Latin American population? But is it as deep there in India, or is it not as deep? Because we don't really hear about it globally. And like you said, India is makes up the brunt of the population of the world and everything. So I'm just wondering, is it something that we really don't hear because y'all don't publicize it, or is it not as prominent there? Because if y'all got like these different ethnicities, I would imagine that there's conflicts. I know there are conflicts on the African nations, but I would imagine there are also continents there in India. But we don't ever hear about that. At least I don't hear about it. Maybe it's in the Hindu newspapers and stuff. But I was just wondering, is that something that's actually even talked about, and how does it not be heard globally if it is an issue?
So the reason you don't hear about it is because the news is suppressed, first of all, because, like I said, the media political connection that is there, and media is used in India just like it is used in many other parts of the world to distract the population. So
Mhm.
you would read a lot about various horrible things that would distract you from the fact that there is a lot of communal strife in India. There are communities which are constantly, at war with each other, and there's, it's like Cold War between these communities. But the thing is, you can't put so many different cultures together under one rule and not have conflict. It
Right.
is bound to happen. Thankfully, though, because of the homogenizing influence of modern technology and global culture, it is starting to become easier. People are becoming more tolerant because there is xenophobia everywhere. I mean,
Mhm.
because of our tribal nature, because of our, you know, sort of this human tendency to be afraid of the stranger, because children are not like that, but we are taught to be afraid of strangers. We are
Right.
taught to be distrusting of people who look different from us, who
Mhm.
wear different clothes and have different culture. We are taught fear because we are not born into fear. We are born loving and compassionate, but we are taught this. And I believe that we are in an unlearning process. But yes, there is a lot of violence that happens between religious groups, between caste groups, between communal groups, and it is pervasive, and it is there all the time. So it is not publicized. Disasters are often not publicized, even in the national media. We had a huge typhoon situation here in Kolkata right at the peak of the pandemic. Most of the country did not know about it properly, forget the world, and people only got to know about it through social media, and people were reaching out to me asking like, hey, are you okay? Because I just found out through the internet, through Facebook or through Twitter, that this is happening. But why am I not seeing this on the media? I'm saying, I told them, well, it's because the political party that rules India at the central level is not the same party that rules my state. So they don't want to highlight this, and they don't want to support, because they feel like it's going to give this political party more power. And but at the behest of that, you have a lot of people suffering, because people just were homeless for months. They lost everything to that typhoon. Even living in the city, we were without internet and power for a very long time. And even when it was getting back, it took like a couple of weeks for broadband to come back online in many parts of the city. And so, if the city was in such a dire state, you can only begin to imagine what the rural areas were like.
Right.
So it was devastating, but it wasn't talked about. It wasn't publicized, and we had to do a lot of um, these events online
Mhm.
just to raise awareness, raise funds. A lot of artists came online, did free concerts, and took all the proceeds and gave it to these shelters and these relief funds and such things. So that is the reason why you don't hear about it. It is unfortunate the way things are, but at the same time, like I said, the culture is slowly changing, and I believe that in about a few more generations, we'll have a lot less traditional strife. Sure, I mean, violence will not end as long as human beings, are like the way we are. But I do feel like we are changing. And to answer your question, the different groups are starting to slowly become trusting. For example, people from the Northeast look very different from the rest of India. And so, for that reason, they are always persecuted and called names and such things. And it's quite horrible sometimes the way they are treated, especially the women. But because they're speaking up and because of the leveling influence of the internet, people are starting to see like, hey, A, they have a presence, they have a voice,
Mhm.
and B, you hear a person's story and you realize their story is not very different from you.
Right.
Their human experience is not very different from you. And whether they're from the next state or the next country or halfway across the world, they still have the same problems, right?
Mhm.
Their mothers still scold them for doing not doing certain things, and
Right.
they have the same relationship problems, and they have the same money problems, and they also hate their bosses, and they also have depression, and the artists there also have anxiety and imposter syndrome, and they also have hopes and dreams of a brighter future. So you just realize, hey, they're not so different, and they look different, they eat different, they talk different, but deep down they're the same people. And so I believe that yes, we are
Yeah.
definitely changing slowly. Yes.
Well, it's good to see that it's changing. It's interesting you bring that up because it's the opposite happens, or at least I've observed the opposite happening when Indian cultures move here to the United States because a lot of times they will um, be the leaders of major corporations, or sometimes they'll even own the corporations. And because of the nature of um, various Indian cultures, not just one Indian culture, but various Indian cultures, they will isolate themselves, and that
Yes.
will create another tension because they will come
Mm,
into like
mm, mm,
a bedroom community and live all tightly together like you would in that kind of way in India. But then that
mm,
sometimes throws off the people that they are being the bosses of. Because I've got a couple of friends that work for Indian bosses, and they're sitting there going
mm,
like, one, they get frustrated because they don't always understand the accents and everything because it might be a
mm.
thicker accent, and then they are also feeling like they're being kind of aloof, for lack of a better term, and everything, and that
Yes.
creates
Yes.
some interesting dichotomies. Because I've had a couple of friends, including a couple of the young ladies that I've dated, that were having Indian bosses, and they would sit there and be like, "I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know any of this stuff." But it creates that kind of interesting dichotomy as well. At least that's what I've observed here and everything. But like I said, I just try to tell them, "Hey, they are not trying to do anything against you. They're just bringing from a different culture, and therefore don't take it personally the way that some of them might have been taking it." But that's just kind of my advice to them, and I think for the most part they understood what I was saying and everything. I was just wondering because you had mentioned earlier about your. And I did want to get to one other global issue that I know. Well, actually, I'll get to that first. Then I'm going to ask about the artistic side of your family. But the other thing that people always oftentimes think about when they think about India is um, kind of the call center kind of work, and how a lot of people were working in those kind of centers over there, even though they might
Mhm,
be working
mhm,
for U.S. companies. And sometimes it was felt that the workers there weren't necessarily getting paid what they should be getting paid, and that it was almost
mhm,
like
mhm,
a kind of very bad work situation for them because they might have been paid low wages, even though they were calling, to Durham or calling to New York or whatever, representing whatever the corporations were. But is that still something that is going on quite often there where these people are working in these call centers but at lower pay?
Well, yes and no. There are places which are extremely exploitative, just like there are all kinds of manufacturing units in India, in Bangladesh, in China, where they manufacture a lot of things and they don't pay minimum wage. And there are these horrible places, definitely. But at the same time, it's very difficult for people to imagine that on a $300 equivalent monthly wage, people can get by very nicely in
Mhm.
places in India. So that is there. The economic disparity kind of makes that possible. So $1 goes a long way here. I can actually buy a really nice meal here for $1 and be quite filling.
Well,
Just to give you an idea. And so yeah, that is definitely there. The exploitation is there because labor is cheap in India because we have so many people who need work, and the economy is not always super strong and stable. So people take advantage of that. And India is actually extremely wealthy. It's just that the wealth is not very well distributed.
gotcha.
Because when you have such a huge market, you obviously generate a lot of wealth.
Mhm.
And this is what people are also waking up to. And hence, thankfully, it is getting a little better. People are starting their own business and they're learning the hustle, by the way,
Yeah.
from you guys, from people in the US. And the hustle is has always been part of the Indian culture, and people are learning that. I feel like in a renewed way, and they're listening to people like Gary Vee and getting inspired, and they're looking at Casey Neistat and learning filmmaking, and all of those things are happening. So it's really cool that way. And I also wanted to touch upon what you talked about the Indian diaspora in the countries. It's
Mhm.
very funny when we meet certain people from the communities. Say, for example, I'm part of the Bengali community. We come from Bengal. We speak Bangla, and when we meet Bengali people from abroad, even though we are technically part of the same generation, they feel like they come from a time capsule because when they left India, they kind of hit a pause button on the culture
Mhm.
and they went into a completely foreign land and they kind of just held themselves like really close, like we don't want to lose our culture, we don't want to lose our identity, because identity politics is one thing, and then there is the identity loss which
Right.
people are very afraid of. So the funny thing is, people in India are not like the diaspora people because we don't have that fear of losing our culture. So we allow the culture to grow and evolve and even mutate, and become different kinds of culture. So we have Indian hip hop now, right?
Right.
And it's a very big movement. We have graffiti artists, we have b-boys, we have MCs, and we have people speaking in their native languages and doing hip hop in their native languages. So all of these things are happening, for example. And then you have people who are from the diaspora and they're in other countries, like you're there in the US. And you're right, they kind of close themselves off. And I feel like they're doing themselves and the culture a disservice, because a culture only grows through inputs, through
Mhm.
constant exploration. And it is only because they became a little scared because they find themselves in a foreign land where they have nothing to grab, to hold on to. So they
Yeah.
hold on to the remnants of the culture that they brought with them. But thankfully, not everybody is like that, because I'm sure you've met Indian people who
Yeah.
are more globalized, more cosmopolitan.
Mhm.
So it takes all kinds really to make a society, for sure. But
Oh
I
yeah.
would, if I meet people like that, I would most certainly encourage them, like, hey, open up a little bit, let the air in, don't close your windows, meet people and mingle. You'll be enriched, because a culture can only stagnate if you don't let other people in. I'll give you an example. My culture has goes back, it traces its roots sort of a few hundred years back, and about 250 or about 300 years back, there was a significant change. We became a global port of business. Bengal
Mhm.
became a global port of business. And so, as a result of that, we have bloodlines which have Portuguese, Parsi, we have European bloodlines in like Spanish,
Mhm.
and there are people who are from the Arabic side. and obviously from the eastern side as well. And so it's very, very mixed. My language, the my primary language, which is Bangla, has words which are Persian, which are Arabic,
Right.
which are French, believe it or not. Obviously a lot of English words because of the colonial rule, and a lot of these other languages which have come in, and some of us don't even remember like where this came from, but we use them because this is our language. So that is how a culture grows, and that is how we evolve. And just like we gave a lot of beautiful spices to the entire world, we
Right.
also received a lot of beautiful ideas from the entire world. And this is how I believe we became so very enriched, and our bloodlines are so very mixed. And hence, we have some of the most beautiful people in India and some of the most beautiful words and lyrics and music, because we were a melting pot, just like the US is right now a melting
Right.
pot. We were a melting pot, and we gave the entire country access to a whole different way of thinking. And there was a time when people used to say, what Bengal thinks today, India will think tomorrow.
Gotcha.
And that is because, we were this huge hub of thinkers and literary people and artists and engineers and scientists. And by the way, radio,
Mhm.
the technology of radio, was simultaneously invented in Kolkata and by
Oh,
Marconi. I forget where he was from. And so J.C. Bose actually was finally recognized that yes, he invented the radio at the same time when Marconi did. And he
okay.
talked about it extensively. And he was also this guy was a polymath. I mean, he found out he made instruments to measure how plants react to things like anesthesia and physical harm and things. So a lot of interesting things were happening in Bengal at that time, and there is a period which is known as the Bengal Renaissance, because culture sort of re-emerged in, and it suddenly took a quantum leap and it evolved very quickly. So I believe that yes, if we open ourselves up to new possibilities, the cross pollination is very important. And for that reason, I was looking for a mission, a direction in my NFT journey,
Mhm.
and I have taken up the mission of facilitating this cross pollination, because I feel like just like the blockchain needs a community to keep it running, I believe the NFT space is nothing without its community. And hence, as an artist, I want to find myself in the context of a thriving, collaborating, growing together community. And this is how it should be. And this is the most joyful way of being. So, yeah, if anybody out there who's listening and you've been sort of cloistered in your own community, step out, make some new friends, say hi to people whose language you don't necessarily understand, and give it a little bit of time. I think you'll thank yourself, because you will taste food that you've never tasted before, and you will hear music that you've never heard before, and you'll fall in love with all of it, and your life will forever be changed and enriched by that. So yeah, that's how I feel
I
about it.
definitely agree with you on that. As a matter of fact, you're talking about people that were not necessarily that stereotype, and were definitely more cross cultural. And Manju and her mom, Vimala, actually the restaurant that they found is actually named after her mom. Is actually a very popular restaurant in Chapel Hill called Vimala's Curry Blossom Cafe, and it definitely has a diverse audience of people that come to see it, and definitely is a what I guess would be considered a traditional Indian restaurant and things along those lines. And then there's a young lady that founded a band called Project Mastana, which actually blended Indian music with rock music. And she
Yep.
now, I believe, lives in DC, but the band was actually formed here in North Carolina. And some of her bandmates still live here in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, I saw one of them about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they're still out there on Spotify and everything else, and they still get together and perform. But it's kind of what you were talking about. They blend the traditional kind of rock music with the Indian music, and it makes for a very wonderful and unique sound. But it's definitely one that I've always enjoyed, and definitely very much of a danceable kind of sound, because they are doing more of that dance music that you might hear in Bollywood musics and records, but also blending the rock sound as well, and some other influences. Like I think she's got some jazz and some blues influences, but it's definitely a group that is really popular and has been around, I want to say, for decades. But they're definitely still around, because she works up in, I want to say, maybe federal government or state government up there, or district government up there in DC, but she definitely is involved either in corporate America or in government up there in the DC area. But her bandmates, I won't say most of them are still down here, so they still try to get together and perform on a fairly consistent basis. Of course, couldn't do as much during the pandemic because everybody was kind of on lockdown and doing things globally. You had mentioned the NFT space. What really drew you into the NFT space? Because a lot of people don't even understand the benefits of NFTs. I know that definitely
Mm-hmm.
IBC is working on NFTs, and some other friends of mine, including Bessie Minks, are working on some NFT kind of spaces. But what drew you into the NFT spaces, and what is it about the blockchain that as an artist you enjoy? Because I know a lot of people here are thinking about it because it's eliminating the middleman, because it can go from the
Mm-hmm.
artist directly to the customer and things along those lines. You don't have to worry about agents and other people that are taking, in a lot of cases, more than their share of the
Oh
money.
yeah.
Is that what drew you in it, or what exactly drew you into the NFT space, and where do you see yourself going in that NFT space?
So I have always been excited by new movements,
Mhm.
and I have witnessed very few movements that have inspired me so much. This, where do I begin? I mean, the possibilities of the blockchain technology are so huge, they're so infinite. This is a paradigm shift that we are witnessing right now. What drew me in was this understanding of the possibility, because when crypto happened, I was I became interested in crypto when I was a tech blogger fresh out of college, or in college, in fact, around 2006 and 7 is when I became aware of it. So at that time, I had no way of participating, but I was certainly interested because I suddenly realized the concept of decentralization. And even at that time, I became inspired by it because we grew up with a lot of ideas of, Leninism and Marxism and communism and such things. But I always knew and I could see around me that it doesn't actually work in the practical world.
Right.
And so people have tried, they have failed. But now we have currency, which is decentralized, which nobody owns. And I already understood peer to peer technology thanks to BitTorrent. And when I had wrapped my head around a peer to peer currency, I was like, whoa, this is powerful if it catches on. But then for a decade after that, it kind of, was in the underground. No one really talked about it so much. And then earlier this year, I heard about Rarible. And I checked it out, kind of cursory glancing at it. And I was like, okay, this looks cool. And I was in this artist residency in the Himalayas at that point earlier this year. And I was just having a really good time. So I just didn't really look at it. And then when I came back in about July, a friend of mine who's a very, very well established fine art painter here in Kolkata called Sushmit, he's also there in the NFT space. He's like, yo, Shelby, you need to check this out, all right? Because this is your thing. Because you like technology and you believe in the ethos, you should check this out. So I was like, cool, okay. And he's like, you know what? What you really enjoy that we don't get to enjoy in general is the community, is a really supportive art community. I was like, oh, that sounds really nice. So what initially drew me in, when I came into Clubhouse, I was immediately welcomed. I was immediately embraced. I was immediately encouraged to ask very, very basic questions. I now know that they were basic questions, but back then they were like, what is happening? What is this thing? What is Tezos? What is this and what is that? So, and everybody very patiently answered those questions. And now, 3 months down the line, I am doing that. The tables have turned, and now I am onboarding new artists and answering those questions. What drew me in? What it was, that the community. What kept me was the community, and what drives me are the possibilities. Like you mentioned, the middleman is cut out. Not only is the middleman cut out, our ability as creator has been amplified because of the ability to have provenance. In the fine art market, provenance is very important.
Right.
Is this piece of art for real? Was this really made by Mark Lee? Is this a true blue IPC? Is this an original Vessi Mink? Very important questions for a collector because they're investing, because they are looking at this as a vehicle for growth. for growing their wealth. So is this for real? In the traditional space, you would have to go to a verification agency,
Mhm.
an evaluator, somebody who certifies like, hey, this is real and this is worth so much, right? The valuation. But then those systems are also corrupt because you can buy those systems, you can game those systems, right?
Right.
And now with the smart contract NFTs, I can mint something on the blockchain and everybody knows it's coming from my wallet. Everybody can see it.
Mhm.
And so when I buy an original IPC for $100, and 1 year later, IPC releases a movie, and that $100 piece is now worth $10,000, I have suddenly profited from supporting an artist just because I believed in them.
Right.
I didn't necessarily buy that piece maybe because I was looking at it as an investment. Like, this is not gold I'm buying, right? I don't
Mhm.
know. But a blockchain like Tezos, for example, enables somebody like me from India to spend, a few thousand Indian rupees equivalent to, some few tens of Tezos, and invest in an artist, encourage them, and own a piece of art. Because growing up as an artist, I was always like, if I like a piece of art, I can't own it because it's so expensive.
Right.
And there was also this thing where, like, okay, I own a piece of art, so now what? I don't have that much disposable income. But now, not only do I get to buy it, there is the aspect of growth. Like, I am investing in the artist, I'm investing
Mhm.
in their growth, I am betting that they will grow. And I am now having a personal interest in their growth. So I will help them, right? Because I have a vested interest in them. And that's such a good thing, right? Because artist collectors, I believe, are the best collectors because they
Right.
are on both sides of the equation. So this is what is driving me right now.
Mhm.
And the empowering nature of this technology is what really inspired me. Because when I saw something like the Hen collab contract, I don't know if you're aware of it, Mark, but
Mhm.
the Hen collab contract is on Tezos, and you can add, I don't know how many wallets, but I think it's the possibilities are limitless. You can add like hundreds, dozens, and hundreds of wallets, and you can decide what proportion. Like, this is not based on percentage, but on proportion. So I can say you and me and IPC get into a collab contract, and IPC comes up with the concept and does most of the legwork. So say we assign the number 3 to his wallet, and
Right.
then you do a lot of work and you do a lot of art for that project, and we assign the number 2 to your wallet, and I do a little bit and I assign the number 1 to my wallet. So now it's being split 6 ways, and
Mhm.
out of those 6 parts, 3 parts are going to IPC, 2 parts are going to you, and 1 part to me.
Right.
This is game changing. If
Mhm.
in the future you, I, and IPC have a fallout and we don't speak to each other, that smart contract does not alter. Nobody can alter it.
Well.
When the project blows up and we're not talking to each other, so our lawyers are at each other's throats, doesn't matter. That money will keep coming to our wallets in the exact fraction, in perpetuity, no matter what happens.
Well.
This in itself is so powerful. And just like you said, the middleman is cut out. Anybody who buys my art can see that it was bought for 10 pesos.
Mhm.
Somebody who's reselling cannot say that, oh, I bought this for very cheap. I bought it for like 3 pesos. And so the growth has been exponential. And when you're buying it for 25, you're buying it for this much growth. So you can sell it for 100 very quickly. They can't lie because everybody can see that it was sold for 10. And so the same thing, when it's sold for 25 pesos and I have a 33% commission rate, that commission will come to me no matter what. Nobody in the world can stop it.
Well.
This power to know that I am completely protected, my interests are completely taken care of by the technology, is liberating. And as an
Mhm.
artist, I believe I have been dreaming of this because I went through my notes of various business ideas, and I had this note where I described an idea where I would sell my art with a digital certificate, which would use public key encryption to show that it came from me. And it was so amazing to think about. Like, 5 years back, I was thinking about this idea, and 5 years back, NFTs were already coming into existence. And
Well.
so I must have picked up something from the ether, right? And my brain must have picked something up because why else would that idea come to me? because I was selling prints and such things. And I was thinking, hey, how do I make it a collectible? How do I give the person a certificate of authenticity, of ownership? And I
Right.
was thinking, I will use public key encryption. And so encryption, cryptography became a huge thing in the world without people even realizing. And a lot of, this is very inspiring for me because a lot of spiritual leaders have said, a lot of visionaries have said this over and over again, like when the revolution comes, the next revolution comes, it will come from the grassroots,
Right.
and the powers that be won't even notice it. The teachers, the artists, the performers, the lawyers, the doctors will be the ones who create the revolution. And by the time it gains momentum, it will be so strong, nobody will be able to stop it. And all of those predictions match the crypto revolution. Nobody owns it, nobody can stop it. It is decentralized, everybody can take part in it. And I have the same tools as an established artist in New York. And that established artist in New York is using the same tools as somebody from Ghana. And it is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Such a democratic platform it has become, and true democracy in a way that would not have been possible, because technically India is also a democracy, but it doesn't run
Mhm.
like that. We all know that.
Right.
It runs on corporate money and political clout. So this is what inspires me about the space, because the possibilities are infinite. When internet happened, the kind of revolution we saw, I believe we are in for 1,000x of that revolution with Web3 and crypto, because it's economy, it's purchasing power, it is wealth redistribution, it is intellectual property being redefined, and it is empowering people. Like, I can't only sell, it's not just like I can sell only art on NFTs. I can sell my house as an NFT,
Hmm.
and that smart contract is perfectly valid. And whoever has that smart contract will be my, will own my house. And this transaction can happen automatically, where you put the money in, the contract goes to you. I can't do any funny business. I can't hold back my art and just run away with the money. I mean, sure, there are scams which have done that in smart ways, but people are learning. And with the criminal activities won't stop, obviously, because
Right.
you have a strong lock. There will be smart people who will figure out a way to crack that code, and then
Yeah.
you'll make stronger locks, and they'll just become better. It's a cat and mouse game. It will go on forever. That's the dance of creation. You can't stop it. It's just it's just fun like that. But it is this paradigm shift that really inspires me, and that's why I'm here.
No, it sounds like a great paradigm shift. It's almost like, I don't know if you've met yet, and I know she's friends with IPC. But I don't know if you've met Gia Scott Heron, and I was always, even before even knowing Gia, in the clubhouse space, a fan of her father, Gil Scott Heron, and everything. So she's there in the clubhouse space, and of course she did
Mhm.
that song entitled "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." That was her
Yeah.
dad that did that song, and it's almost like we've got this new version of "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised" with the NFT spaces, where it's almost like what you just said, that it's a revolution that can't be stopped and everything. You had also mentioned another word earlier, that you said that your culture had gone through that. And I've been arguing for a while, because I'm a big fan of the Harlem Renaissance, and we had a Renaissance here in Durham because we were considered one of the original Black Wall Streets. And definitely there was the renaissances of like Italy and Greek and everything. But it seems to me that we're almost in the middle of a new cultural renaissance. And I was actually arguing it was happening even before the pandemic. So it does seem
Yes.
like we've been in the middle of a new renaissance that's been taking place over, I would argue, several years, if not at least a decade or so. But would
Yes.
you say that same kind of thing, where you've seen a global renaissance in the artistic community?
Most certainly, because look at technology.
Hmm.
Initially, buying an SLR camera was an expensive proposition because you have to
Right.
buy a lot of film. Then digital cameras came, but they were expensive to begin with. And now my phone has a better digital camera than the first professional digital cameras that came out. It has
Right.
more computing power than the computers that sent the rockets to the moon, right?
Right.
So now that this power is literally in the palm of our hands, what is the limitation? There are none. And talking about the art revolution, people, thanks to the power of the internet again, can go online, learn anything about anything, pick up any skill from masters, not just amateurs, from masters, because people generously share their techniques, they generously share their journey. And people like, say, I was in a clubhouse room with Ali Sabet. Now, he's a successful artist in the NFT space, and he just very candidly shared a lot of advice, a lot of his journey, his strategies for selling and stuff. And I was like, where else would I be able to just walk up to a master creator and ask him direct questions, like burning questions, probably questions he gets all the time, but where else would that happen? And where else can this person, from the comfort of his home, just casually while he's chilling over coffee in the morning, give like mind-blowing advice to beginners like me? And this is just amazing. I mean, I've been doing art for decades now, but getting this advice from established creators really changed everything. And so it's not just learning the techniques and skills, but it's also learning the market, the business, the strategy of it all that really changes the game. So I believe this revolution, just like you said, is not just started with the crypto revolution. It started when the means of art production creation became democratized. A lot of people were
Right.
crying like, oh, everybody has a DSLR, everybody's a photographer, and there's so much noise. And I'm like, listen, stop crying about it. That this just means that we'll have more amazing artists, photographers, painters, who otherwise would not have come into the forefront and probably would have been in a deadbeat, dead end job and just had a very depressed life and just lived in total like anonymity. So I feel like this is has been in the process of becoming for a very long time, like you said. And you know what the crazy thing is? It is just the beginning. This is just getting started and it's already so massive. So I'm thinking this tidal wave hasn't broken yet. It is
Mm.
it is still building, and there are more waves to come. It is insane just to think about it. It boggles the mind.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it might have also forced another problem that has existed for a while because I've got friends that are in the artist space, whether that's visual artists or musicians or actors and even filmmakers. And for a long time, there's well, it's a term throughout the country and throughout the world of show business. And for a long time, there were a lot of people that had the show aspect down, not as much
Hmm.
the business aspect. They didn't necessarily have a
Hmm.
business plan. They didn't necessarily have a pitch deck. They didn't necessarily have a lot of other things that you might need in order to be successful in the business aspect of whatever your creative is. But it seems like this NFT space has also almost forced the hands in that regards because it made people become even more business savvy than they might have been before when they were just being creatives. At least that's what I've observed is that it's almost making them have to learn the business side because that's the way that NFTs are run. So you almost have to learn the business side in addition to your creative side in order to even make it work. So it seems like it's changing it where it's really making it true show business, where you have both the show and the business, whereas before it might have been people that were strictly show and not as good on the business side. That's why we have a lot of our historical artists, like historical jazz and blues artists, and even historical rock artists, that basically went broke because they didn't really have the right knowledge of the business or they had the wrong people handling the business that robbed from them and everything. So it seems to me that this is giving the power back to the artist.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I have been blessed to have been offered a lot of commercial opportunities as an
Right.
artist, and so I've always kept my personal art separate. And for the past decade and a little more, I have mostly been working as a commercial artist, producing content for big corporate houses, independent artists and individuals, and such things. So I kind of had to force myself into the business world, learn things like pitching, and learn things like how to present and how to conceptualize an idea, how to produce a budget, and various different things, invoicing and all of those nitty gritties of running a business. But not all artists are really savvy with this. Not all
Right.
artists have these opportunities, right? I have been blessed with that for various reasons. I mean, my father tried, for example, I have a living example in front of me. He tried to run a business and he just had a horrible time, right? We lost a lot of money. We lived very poorly for a very long time. My mother, thankfully, was a working lady, and she had her job and she supported us throughout our school life. And she put me and my sister through school and through college. And then my father, started getting other kinds of work that he was good at, and he started, doing those things. So it was really, really important for me to take lessons from that and put those ideas into action. Like, I need to know how to be a good business person if I am to make money. And it was very clear to me, looking at him struggle so much and going
Right.
through all that emotional pain that the family went through. So that, I feel like, has really opened up in this space where whenever I meet new artists, I always try to share with them a little bit of strategy. Something as simple as people getting confused about, oh, so what is the difference between a one of one and editions? Should I do editions or one of ones? I'm like, listen, you can do both. You can sell a painting, at the same time you can sell prints of your artwork. You don't
Right.
necessarily have to commit to one thing. And suddenly I can see light bulbs going up and like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And they're really thankful that this idea was shared with them. And so I am just passing on knowledge that was given to me and for which I was also very grateful. So this kind of community learning process is really what changes the game for artists, because
Right.
we are finally in a hyperactive space where we are constantly engaging with each other and shilling. A lot of people get confused because of the word shilling, because they think it's the noun shilling, which is the currency, the
Right.
pennies and the shillings. And then I tell them, no, it's a verb, it's an action. You shill, and shill is a hard sell. It's actually originally used in a negative connotation, like this guy's shilling. He's a shiller. But crypto space has its love for irony, so they used an ironic term for selling their work, because hey, I'm an artist, so I'm gonna have to shill my work. But what I've realized is, more than shilling, we need to connect, because business people know this. You don't sell a product, you
Right.
don't sell um, anything but an idea. You sell,
Right.
at the very maximum, you sell yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
people have told me over and over again, you buy into the artist and not the art.
Right.
And so I just constantly encourage people, like, listen, go to shill threads and shill rooms, and it's all great and fine, but do spend time finding your tribe, making connections, having conversations, because it will give you. And this comes back to the negatives that we were talking about earlier. You can burn out really quickly, if you don't have
Right.
an emotional kickback, if you don't feel good. So every day I wake up, I do my meditation, and around 7:30 in the morning, I log into Clubhouse. Now, why
Mm-hmm.
would I want to log into a social media platform first thing in the morning and have a horrible experience? I go there because my friends are waiting there, right?
Right.
My friends from all other parts of the world are waiting, and I'm just looking forward to saying hi to them. So it's like waking up, stepping out of my house, and my neighbors are there, and we all know each other, and we all have a gala time. We're all artists. It's just that they live in other parts of the world, but they're in
Right.
my phone, and I love them to bits. And I'm so happy I also met you, and I believe that this is
Right.
the start of a beautiful new relationship as well. And I met IPC and Bessie, and so I keep meeting all these new people, and they inspire me. And I hear IPC talking, and I was like, this guy is setting my head on fire. He's opening my heart up. Like, this guy is fantastic.
Right.
And so I have these experiences on a daily basis, and I learn from them. I learn how they present themselves. I learn how they project their energy, their beautiful vibration, and I encourage other artists to do the same. Like, hey, don't always be shilling, right? Because you are an artist. People need to know. People need to know who you are, right? So put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and speak. So I spoke about my journey for the first time, probably as an artist, on the NFT
Right.
space in Clubhouse and on Twitter. And the more I open up, the more I see people around me just connecting to me and holding me up. It almost feels like I've got these hands on my shoulders, clasping my shoulders and patting my back, and sort of squeezing my hand, going like, "Hey, I'm here. You're
Right.
here. We are here, and you are with us." And it's a beautiful space that way. So you're absolutely right. The business side is very important, but I feel like it's the community that makes it work. And most of my artist friends have been collected. Their first collectors were friends. Their first
Mm-hmm.
collectors were people who really believed in them. For me, it's the same thing. I made my first sale during the exhibition when I was presenting. This person just went through and just bought something because it called out to them. It was Galliano who did that actually. And then I'm part of this Cyber Kids Club. It's a Tezos PFP project, but they're so different because they're like, we're not going to invest in blue chips and stuff. We are going to invest in the artists in the community. So they hold regular votes in the community. They have themes, and whichever art pieces get voted get added to the vault, get added to the gallery, and they spend that money in the ecosystem. So these guys are all about giving back, and I was so humbled and honored that they became my second collector. And so my art is there with some amazing artists. And so this is the kind of connection that I would like to cultivate.
Right.
Would I be happy if my collector is an unknown person who's just collected because I was shilling in a space? Sure, I would be, because they're investing in an unknown artist. But how much more joy does it give me that my friends are my collectors,
Right.
that my people who believe in me are my collectors? Because that is a huge vote of confidence. Like, this is not just some guy I'm looking at on the internet, and I've done that also. I like somebody's art.
Mhm.
It's something that I can afford. I just go and pick up an edition and give them some words of encouragement, like, "Hey, I really like your art. I collected. All the best. Keep growing." But then I forget about them, or maybe if I see them again, I'll promote their work again. But I don't have a regular connection with them. But being in a space where we are collecting each other, supporting each other, and sharing each other's collectors with each other, this I feel is sustainable. I finally,
Right.
like, I'm a big believer of sustainable growth. This is why I'm big time into permaculture, and my long term roadmap is to create communities around permaculture and sustainability and renewable energy. So we have, like, I have this vision, okay, of these amazing food forests where we are all making art on renewable energy, and we all have our little solar pods where we are minting our art. And I just want to buy up a lot of barren land and rehabilitate it and bring the flora and the fauna back. And I want to do that all with art and the community. So, and I with finally with the crypto space, I believe this is actually possible because the wealth is there, is getting redistributed.
Right.
So I just want to grab a piece of that just because I want to do this for Mother Earth. And because of the business aspect of it, I believe it's finally within my reach. Yes.
No, I think it's definitely coming. There's no doubt it's going to have that vision and it'll come true. Because I remember I even had that vision a long time ago, many decades ago, of having like an art space that would have like a film studio, a theater, a bookstore, and a number of other things. I think I might have had that vision when I was a teenager. It hasn't come true yet, but I still think that it could come true at some point or another. To be like a creative space where people will be able to create. To some degree, the Cultural Arts Center I work is one of those, but this was going to be something that would be more of, like you were talking about, a communal kind of living space where people are creating and doing the work on a regular basis. But I remember having that vision when I was I want to say a teenager, and definitely in my early 20s. So I think that that's still out there, even though I'm in the late 50s now. But still, I think it can happen before I hit that 200 mark, because I'm personally going for 200. No, nobody's made it, but I'm going to go try to do it anyway. And
Let's do
everything, even
this.
though that's an impossible goal, you might as well set it an impossible goal just for the fun of it. And at least, if nothing else, you went on the journey of trying to get there, even if it did not happen in reality and all of that. You had mentioned your sister a couple of times, and did she inherit the art bug as well, or did because you also mentioned both of your parents were in the creative space, or is it just that you got the art bug and sister went into corporate world, or did you both do some artwork, or is art not something that she picked up on?
Wouldn't it be funny if she was like a corporate drone and she was like a manager in some huge nameless corporation? That would be really funny. But thankfully, my sister has become sort of my primary ally in creation. She started her journey as a fashion designer. She started designing costumes and jewelry and such things, and she's been working with me in various projects. She's been working in the film industry and creating sets and ambience and doing creative direction and project management and such things. Her main skill set involves fashion, costume, and set design, so scenography as well. So she's doing all of that, and I'm encouraging her to wrap her head around the NFT space because she's still a little lost about, like, what is this. So she hasn't really stepped in yet, but I'm like, hey, I am paving the road. You come on in, and you'll have me and all my friends, and don't you worry about a thing. And I'm helping her create her first collection, and I'm hoping she'll step into it in the new year. So that's what she does. She's a beautiful soul. I am so blessed that she has come with me in this incarnation with my journey. And after I started my spiritual journey, I had a lot of experiences, and a lot of intuitive knowledge I had before have solidified. So I know that she and I go way back. I know my family and I go way back, but because souls tend to incarnate into these kind of groups, because it's like a club of friends. We
Mhm.
enjoy these adventures together. So I know we have done this before, and we'll do it again. So she and I are just teaming up all the time, and we have a lot of fun creating together. So I'm just looking forward to introducing her to the space. Her energy is beautiful. She's an amazing, caring soul. She has a green thumb. Plants just respond to her so well. Animals just love her. She's like one of those fairy tale creatures. So she is amazing, all kinds of amazing, and I'm just really blessed to have her with me.
Sounds like it's interesting you mentioned that because definitely I have that same connection with the animals and the plants, and I actually also believe in ancestral energy. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine that's family is originally from Liberia, but he lives here, him and his wife and everything. And I was telling him about a vision that I had that involved my grandma on my mom's side because it was like she was telling me some stuff about finances and being frugal in my finance investments. And ironically, as I recall the dream, and I think it was a dream of about a week ago, I don't remember seeing her physically, but it was like hearing her voice and it was giving me some advice around finances. And I didn't even think of her historically as being the financial person in the family. But when I brought it up to my mom, she was like, no, she definitely was the financial person and left a certain amount of money and land to my mom and her three sisters when she passed, and it also done some other financial things that I wasn't even aware of until mom shared that with me. And I'm going like, okay, I guess grandma was trying to tell me something about being a little bit more frugal in some of my investments, and maybe I need to listen to the ancestors when they're talking to me. Because, like I said, it was just a dream where usually when I wake up in the morning, I don't always remember what the dream was. It was in that deep state of dream, and you don't always remember it when you wake up. But I do
Mm.
remember that one stayed with me. As you can tell, I can tell part of the dream even now, but even though that's not the full details, but because it's faded to some degree. But I know that it was definitely that night it was, or that day it was bothering me so much. I was going like, I don't remember grandma being the financial person. Why did she even send me those messages? So that's when I called. I think I called my aunt first, and then I called mom, and then mom was like, "Yep, no, he was trying to tell you something. You need to listen."
Oh man, these energies, these connections, they go so far beyond, because in any case, time is not real. It's just an experience that we have. It's just a construct that we create. So it's timeless. And I feel like my soul is scattered all over the time, space, reality. I feel like I have simultaneous existence in various time zones. Parts of me are all over the world in various eras. And all of that information is pouring into me, and my information is pouring into them. So I get a lot of this kind of downloads when I
Mhm,
am meditating, and I would have just a head full of ideas. The same reason why, when you are in the bathroom or in the shower or when you are going to sleep, your thoughts are slowing down
mhm,
and the information starts to flow in. You get ideas. And through meditation, I have been able to sort of inculcate that in me. And I have started to sort of establish this practice of just quieting my mind. When I need an idea, when I need inspiration, I can just sit for a minute and reach out and simply open up myself like a vessel. And immediately there's this downpouring of ideas and inspirations and images, and very, very clear. And the more I practice this, the more it becomes, the more easier it becomes. It is how people would describe, I suppose, as the ancestral energy, like you said, because I know a lot of people have that. Like my long hair, for example, a lot of people ask me, like, why do you have hair like this? Like,
mhm,
and somebody called me NFT Jesus yesterday, which was hilarious. And I was like, well, to be honest, I feel like it is part of my identity in a way that I can't explain.
mhm,
And it makes me feel very comfortable because I feel like I've always had long hair, even though, like, it's very difficult to describe, but I feel like it's part of my incarnational story where long hair has always been connected, and it is also like it carries a lot of history somehow.
Mhm.
Somehow the hair, is associated with a lot of ancestral energy in various cultures. And I'm not sure if I'm recollecting this correctly, but a lot of Native American cultures
Mhm.
have this deep connection with long hair and
Mhm.
ancestral energy, and they keep it for that reason, to channel that energy and to listen to the knowledge that is being shared with them. So yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. It's definitely there, and it definitely comes when you need it the most.
Oh yeah, definitely. Those messages are there when you need them, and sometimes they come in unusual places. Like I said, the building that I work at, the Haiti Heritage Center, is actually a converted church and was built by former slaves and everything during the time it's in an African American community. And I don't know anybody that works in that building that has not heard mysterious noises, whether it's dances, whether it's voices, whether it's whatever. As a matter of fact, I even had a friend that recently that was closing the building at dark, and they were like, "Are you too afraid to stay a little bit longer?" And I even told him, I said, no, when I leave, I will set the alarm and I will also tell the ancestors, let me go out the building. Just let me get out. Y'all can have the party after I leave. Y'all can do whatever y'all want to. Just let me get out and then y'all can have whatever party you want. Just let me get out and I'll be quiet when I come back in the morning. But right now, y'all just need to, I'm giving you, just give me my time and then I'll let y'all have whatever party you want at that time. So I do know that there has been various people that have gone on into the ancestral ground. So I think they're probably having a real good party sometimes up there, but I'm not there
Oh,
to late
sure, for sure.
find out, and I don't know that I would be welcomed there because they got to have their time as well. So sometimes you got to give them their space also. One of the things I was curious about, and then I'm going to wrap up everything very shortly, is um, here in the States, there's been a lot of conversation around, and I know the NFT is opening it up to a lot of degrees, but sometimes the artists feel, for lack of a better term, exploited because they feel that they're not getting the money that they need to get from the resources, whether that's festivals in the sense of musicians or whether that's even paid gigs. I know that I even had asked my dad to help with a corporation that I was working with, and they wanted him to basically give the art, and he was like, "No, that's not really what I'm trying to do. If y'all want to pay me some money and be the worst, then I'll do that. But it's not even going to be doing me all that good if I'm putting it in a limited space because it wasn't like even a space that had a lot of foot traffic. I mean, the people that were there weren't necessarily going to be trying to buy it, and it really wasn't going to be a win for him in the sense of one showing the art and the people respecting the art, and two any sort of financial win as well. At least that's my perception. But I was just wondering, do you find that even there in India that the artists don't necessarily get the kind of respect that they should get, whether that's musically, where they're being undercharged, or whether that's the like the more visual artists that may not be getting the kind of pay that you would like to see. So how is it perceived there in the sense of physical collectors and how they might be collecting art as the common citizens?
Well, the story here is pretty much the same as everywhere else in the world, where opportunities and monetization are felt like they're very scarce. At the same time, there's an added, a very interesting additional layer, but there's a lot of respect for the artist. Like the general
Mhm.
public has a lot of respect. They see the way I look, the way I dress. It's a little different from everybody, and they immediately have questions like, "Oh, are you part of a band? Do you make music? Do you sing? Do you play the guitar? Are you a painter?" And so they have this thing like the artist has an aura in our culture because the arts have always been celebrated in our culture because every child in our culture is taught at least one form of art.
Mhm.
Like it's very interesting. Parents here would be like, you need to go to tuition, extra tuition, for learning math, geography, and physics. At the same time, you need to go to guitar classes, you need to go to dance classes, you need to take singing lessons, you need to take drawing lessons, and the kids are just burdened with it. So it's kind of killing their spirit a little bit. But so yeah, it's a very strange dichotomy. But then, such is the world. You have duality everywhere.
Right,
And I have a bit of a different answer to how that works for me. Now, the NFT space is obviously kind of the same,
right.
where you have people like, oh, lower your prices or something. It's a very personal choice, really. What I would suggest to all artists is what I do myself is you charge what you believe you deserve and
Mhm.
also what you believe you can get away with. At the same time, it totally comes down to what you believe in, because everything that you believe in manifests no matter what is happening outside, because you create your own reality on a moment to moment basis, and you attract that reality into your experience through the thoughts, the beliefs that you're holding, because they're creating a vibration at all times, and that vibration is matched by the universe at all times. So whenever I have gone into a relaxed state of being where I'm like, I am worth it, I am happy to be here, I deserve this, and I know it's given already. All I need to do is go with the flow and just watch it appear into my experience. So whenever I've needed things, they have appeared, often without me needing to purchase them. People have just given me things, or by some strange fluke, things have just appeared and they were free. And things that I would have paid for, and maybe I didn't have the money for it at that time, but it just kind of appeared. So the same has happened to me when I started freelancing online, and I can see the same happening to me on the NFT space. I would wake up, think of a certain kind of person I want to meet, just because something, some idea came to me, and instead of me going out and looking for that person, I would just be hanging out, and somebody would be getting in touch or appearing in the chat and something and saying something, and I would say something, and they would be like, "Oh, hey, I was looking for someone like that." I was like, "Yep, I thought about this morning. I asked for it. It is given." So every time you ask for it, it is given. And this is a very, I know it's a little, how to say, esoteric for some most people. It will sound strange, but if it can be practiced, it is very powerful. And that is where I'm at right now, is that it is not the outside world that's exploiting me. It is the belief that I'm holding. It is the scarcity mindset that I'm holding. So every day I wake up and I meditate, I release my resistance, I release all resistant thoughts, and I simply visualize the life that I want to have. And Mark, I am being completely sincere and honest here. Every single day, bit by bit, I feel my vibration changing, and magical things appear in my experience. It can be very small, small little things. I can be thinking of something I want to eat, and I would walk outside my room after my meditation. I would see my sister preparing it. I was like, "How did you know?" She's like, "I don't know. I just felt like making it, and I know you might have liked it, so I just made it." Little
Right.
things like that, or things like I want a collaborator for these spaces I'm starting, on Clubhouse and Twitter. And then this friend of mine, Simran, she calls me up yesterday and she's like, "Hey, Shalpik, I've been wanting to talk to you. I want to host these spaces." I'm like, "You don't say," because I was
Right.
trying to call you and I wanted to host these spaces. So yeah, full on, let's do this. And so these kind of things keep on happening, right? And it's just information I would want. I would walk into Clubhouse and somebody would be talking about it. People I would want to meet, they'd call me. So we all obviously have been trained to have a scarcity mindset about money. So I am in the process of getting rid of that, like changing that programming in myself about money. So sales are happening slowly. I can see them happening. Just like in the freelancing space online, you'd hear the same thing, "Oh, it's so exploitative. Oh,
Right.
they're asking for such low rates, oh, this and oh, that." And I'm like, guys, it's okay, chill. Because if you look at it, there are also clients who pay handsomely. And I have had the benefit of that teaching from various teachers. And when I polarized myself into that state of mind, I found the most amazing clients, and I still write for them. I write a photography blog, I do a wood carving blog because I'm also into wood carving, and I'm writing these general web content, and it pays me really well. And so I can have that freedom to make art and work from any location I want. And all of that happened simply because I brought myself into a state of mind where my deepest desires would manifest. And in any case, my deepest desires would manifest as long as I don't hold a countering thought. Like, I want $1 billion, but I don't believe that I can get $1 billion. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to happen, right? I'm just going
Right.
to run around in circles because I'm taking one step forward with my desire to get $1 billion. And then immediately I'm stepping backwards thinking, "Oh, but I can't get that." Right. So I'm just dancing around in one single spot thinking, but why am I not reaching anywhere? Well, it's very simple. If you have to go from Kolkata to Delhi, you have to just keep taking one step after another in one direction. If you keep turning back and then keep moving forward and turning back and moving forward and turning back, you're moving around in circles and you're thinking, why am I stagnating? Why am I not getting work? Why am I not getting sales? Is because you're offering two different vibrations, one after the other. And the universe is constantly be like, is like, here it is, oh, you don't want it. Here it is, oh, you don't want it. Here it is, oh, you don't want it. And so it's like, it's there, right? Just relax, it'll come to you. Just relax, it'll come to you. So
It's probably that.
yeah,
Yes, it's probably that way even in relationships. Because you were saying that, I was thinking about some of
absolutely,
my own
absolutely.
relationships,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes you desire it and you seem like it's heading in that direction, and then you talk yourself out of it, or you don't even talk yourself into it, and then it's probably just like you just said, that concept of the universe saying, "Here's the relationship, I'm taking it away. Here it is, I'm taking it away." It's probably that concept,
Yeah, exactly.
even in life relationships with the other gender and everything of that nature. So it's probably even not just in the art space, but in various life spaces, friendships,
Everything,
relationships, everything.
everything, everything. Like I would wake up and I think about like, hey, I want to have this kind of an experience with my partner today. And I wouldn't even communicate with them. They would just come up on their own and they would have the experience with me. They would want to do something together, exactly what I was thinking about. And the way this would happen is I would just hold that vibration very lovingly, very lightly in my mind and give it a lot of love, because when we want something, it's from that space of desire and love. Like, I want this kind of a, so it doesn't even have to be a new person. People can fix their relationships just by holding that vibration about the person that's already there. And they're like, I want to have this amazing moment with my partner in this way. And if they have no like sort of counter vibrations to that, it can happen instantaneously. You wouldn't believe how fast it can happen, but it does happen. And I have been so blessed to have learned this early on. And now I'm just applying it in the fields of career and finance. But I have been blessed with these amazing relationships in my life, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful for it. Yeah.
It sounds like you're very grateful for it. As you were saying that, I know that sometimes even here in the states, because like I said, I've known a couple of people that have done what I guess would be considered found art, and it sounds like some of your art is in that found art space. So I was just wondering, do I know sometimes people will have kind of that Andy Warhol reaction, because he had the famous soup can, and they'll be like, "That looks like something that I can find anywhere." And I've known some people that have even found like trash in the highways and turned that into what I consider some very interesting or intriguing art pieces. But other people might go look at it and be like, "That's just a bunch of cans together and everything." So I was wondering, since it does sound like some of your artwork is in that found art nature kind of realm, do you ever sometimes get the reaction from the audience of not quite understanding what the art is?
Yes, because every time I tell people I make art, they're like, oh, I love it, but I just don't understand it. And I just smile at them and tell them, you are absolutely fine. I don't understand it either. And nobody needs to understand art, because art is meant to evoke emotion, because we are creatures of energy and emotion is energy. If do you feel a certain emotion when you see the art, they'll be like, yeah, 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 I totally feel that, emotion. Like I feel this kind of weird sensation, and it makes me feel like this and makes me feel like that. I'm like, you are exactly how it's meant to be. This is what the artist intended. Everybody talking in highfalutin words about art, they are just making conversation, okay?
Mhm.
No artist in the history of art has ever made a piece and said, I want books to be written about this piece. No. They wanted to release that emotion
Mhm.
into the universe and express, because words could not express it, because anything else would fall short of what they were feeling inside, what they were seeing. And so when Andy Warhol saw that soup can, or when I saw this strange piece of tree trunk, I was like, this is so beautiful. Look at the way it's moving. And I would capture it in a certain way. I'm just trying to, just express that emotion that I'm feeling. Like, look at the beauty of this piece, look at the, like, I have seen people, like, there's this beautiful artist that I'm in connection with on Twitter called Kate McDonald. I think she's in the UK somewhere. and she uses these images of dead birds and skulls and like memento mori, right? And she makes these beautiful digital collages. You wouldn't believe that death, something that was dead, could evoke so many beautiful emotions in you. You would look at it and you'd go like, wow, this is so beautiful. How does she do it? It's because she is holding this vibration of this emotion that she wants to portray, right? This hope and joy. And she's portraying it with dead animals, to be very, very, literal about it.
Mhm.
And so isn't it amazing how art can just transmute that? So this is all about transmutation of energy, and transmutation of energy is nothing but moving from one emotion to another. And so art is all about perspective. And so as long as people look at art and they get a reaction, an emotional invocation, it is art has served its purpose. And this is how I define masterpieces, is that everybody gets the same reaction when they look at the Scream or the Mona Lisa or the Starry Night. And that's what makes it a masterpiece, is because it will continue to evoke that range of emotions in viewers in perpetuity. It is eternal, right? And that is what a good piece of art is. So similarly, music does that, and it's like physical objects and sculptures do that. So it's okay. I don't understand my art because I don't want to understand it. I want to
Right.
express. It is my expression, it is my language. So for anybody listening to this right now,
Mhm.
if you feel like you need to walk into a gallery and be able to have a conversation about art, talk about how it makes you feel. Talk about what you like about it. Talk about why it distresses you, or why it unnerves you, or talk about why it evokes this beautiful sensation in your heart and your stomach. That's it. That's just
That
it.
makes a lot of sense and everything, and I think people don't oftentimes get that because they want to try to make it, like you just said, they want to try to give it an explanation and a
Yeah, it's
reason.
intellectual. They just want
Right.
to get up here. It's like it's not up here. It's down here. It's in the heart.
And they're trying to make it into an intellectual statement. That's a good description and everything. One thing you mentioned earlier, and I just wondering your thoughts about this. As you mentioned your sister and some of the things she did with her art in the set designs and even your own film work and everything. And I do know that historically speaking, Bollywood has always had a strong kind of pull because a lot of people think of it as being like the other Hollywood or the other Nollywood, which I know is the Nigerian version
Hmm.
of that and everything. But I was just wondering, is that something that we're still seeing and everything, where people are really given a lot of support to that, or is that something that is not as popular as it used to be? Because I've always heard of Bollywood as being kind of like the next, the Hollywood in addition to Nollywood. It's kind of like the trio, for lack of a better term, of big time movies. Is Hollywood, Bollywood, and Nollywood.
Okay, so I'll share the statistic with you that I shared in the NFT 99 thing also. We, as a unified film industry, not just Bollywood, we have Lollywood and Tollywood, which is my local film industry.
Mhm.
Together, India produces by far the largest number of films anywhere in the world. And the budget total is far beyond what Hollywood spends. And Bollywood is a behemoth. It is a force to be reckoned with. It is a beehive of some of the most creative, powerful artists in the space. At the same time, it has also got a very dark underbelly.
Yeah.
And the influence of Bollywood is pervasive in the Indian culture. You cannot avoid it. At the same time, because it's so very art focused in its origin, it is also changing rapidly, and we are seeing a lot of progressive films being made. At the same time, we have had some of the best independent filmmakers in India who went on to Bollywood and they made some amazing work there as well. And we are seeing a new crop, a new generation of female filmmakers, directors, musicians, music producers who are just stepping up and they're redefining the space. And I just love looking at their work. Now, I personally don't follow Bollywood that much because I often live in this kind of under a rock in a bit because I'm very selective in what I expose myself to because I know it affects my vibration. So if it feels good, I go for it. So I see some Bollywood movies and some Hollywood movies. But if it doesn't feel good, I just don't look at it. I just don't give it any attention, positive or negative. I just am like, it does not exist for me. And that way, I'm not super knowledgeable, but my friends are. Then they often like, this is how I attract good things into my life. They are my filters. They'd be like, Shelpik, I know you don't follow these things very closely, but this is a film that is really recommended for you. I'm like, okay, if you have said that, it means it was meant for me to be. It was meant for me to hear it. Let me see how that feels. I'll watch the trailer or look at the poster. If I get a good vibration from it, I'm gonna start to watch it. And if it feels good, I'm gonna continue. And so that way, Bollywood is super powerful. And my sister has been on the periphery. She's worked with quite a few stars that way, and she's mostly in the independent space because that's how we are. Like, she her in her work, she uses a lot of sustainable practices. Like in my woodworking, also I source all my wood locally, and I use sustainable practices, zero waste methods. And she also does that. She upcycles waste fabric into beautiful pieces of, like accessories and bags and such things. So we are in that space kind of. So we're not fully in the mainstream, but we are definitely connected. We have deep roots and deep connections in the mainstream because we have worked in it, we have friends in it, and like it or not, that influence will always be there because it attracts the best of the best of talents because the money is there and the fame is there. So yeah, it is very much there, and it's bigger than ever.
Sounds like it. Well, I'm going to give you the privilege of actually, well, not the privilege, but I was pulling up because I think that y'all's work is very similar, and I will send you his website as well, and hopefully
Sure.
I'll send you, I'll send him yours at some point and everything. But this is actually some of my dad's artwork and everything. So I
Oh
was
yes, please.
pulling that up and everything. But that's actually some of my dad's artwork that he's done. As you can tell, he uses some of the
Oh,
animals and some of the found art. But this is actually some of my
yeah,
dad's
that's
artwork that he's
beautiful.
done and everything. So as you
Yeah.
can tell, he uses some of the bugs and some of the other things that he's put together. And that's
Oh, I
just
love this
some of his
one.
work and everything. But that's some of uh, Pop's artwork.
Yeah. No, this really resonates with me. You're absolutely right. My taste, my approach to art is definitely, there's a lot of similarities between him and me. And I'm glad you're sharing this with me. I love this one. Oh, I love this. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. I love his work.
Oh yeah.
Are these NFTs yet? Come on.
I'm trying to get him to get into the NFT space. He's older because, like I
Please,
said, I'm
please.
in my
Yeah.
50s, so
Like,
he's in his 80s. So I'm trying to get him into that NFT space because I definitely think that it would do well in the
oh,
NFT space.
these are so good. Yeah. Please bring him into a nice, intimate clubhouse room, and we can just have a chat with him and get to know him. And I would love to just encourage him to get into this space because I feel his art, would do really well here. He has some beautiful pieces, and I'm so happy to see that you're supporting him like this.
Oh yeah, I love to support
Yeah.
people like that. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. I just felt like that y'all's art styles were similar, so I just wanted to like let you see that and everything. As we get to wrap up, one of the things I do with all my guests, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I could have a conversation with you for another hour or two. I told you that when I first met you in the clubhouse and everything, but I do need to get some Z's and some rest and everything. But one of the things I always tell all my guests is one, to tell folks how they can reach you on either the clubhouse space or in Instagram, Facebook, in internet in general. And then the network itself, International Broadcast Media, is considered a global network of being heard in roughly 150 countries and all 50 states, sometimes in live, sometimes in team replay. So we always ask our guests to give a word of, and you've done a lot of that during the course of this conversation, but a word of positivity and hope, because that's something that I believe in. So I try to get all my guests to give a word of positivity and hope for our entire global planet. So if you can tell folks how they can reach you and any words of positivity and hope that you would like to leave them with before I get that airplane that brought us in out of here as well.
All right. Thank you, Mark. So everybody, you can reach me on Twitter and on Instagram as Shelpik, Shailpik. I'm Shelpik on pretty much all social media. So you can find me that way. And if you put a .com at the end of my name, shelpik.com, you'll find my website where you'll find everything that I'm into currently, everything that's exciting for me. So please reach out to me like that. And thank you, Mark. I am really honored and grateful to have shared this time with you. This conversation has been amazing. You're an amazing host. You're very gracious and you're very insightful. So thank you so much for that. And to sign off with a positive message, I would really encourage everybody to take 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute today sit down, focus on your breath, and feel the energy around you and feel the life that is happening in every moment around you. Feel that dance of creation around you and take joy in knowing that you are here exactly where you are meant to be and you are loved, you are cherished, you are magic, and you are an energetic, powerful being. And all the power that you seek lies in your heart. And the moment you take it out, all that you desire will manifest. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And like I said, we're going to get this airplane on out of here. But Doug, tell all my guests, I hope that you'll come back because I love having guests back. Sometimes it's one on one, like we've been doing. Sometimes it's in a group conversation. But I do
I
hope
would
that
love
you will
to.
come back and share some more of your knowledge and your wisdom on a future show as well. Because I really have been enjoying your energy and I would love to have you come back anytime that you want because I'll just consider this another family. And I love having people come back on return trips as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be my pleasure. Thank you so much, Mark.
No problem at all. We're getting ready to get this plane on out of here, and me and Chalpick, he's going to get on with the rest of his day, and I'm going to get a little bit of rest. But we'll be back later on and everything. But it's been a fantastic conversation, and I look forward to having many more with him as we continue our conversations and our growth together in this global journey. So definitely appreciate Chalpick for joining me. We're going to get this airplane on out of here.